Your Ethereum is sitting in a wallet doing absolutely nothing, while you could be collecting $82 every single day from it. I'm dead serious. If you have $100,000 in ETH right now, you're missing out on $30,000 per year in pure income without selling a single coin. While you're watching this video, literally right now, somebody with the same amount of ETH as you just made another $3 and another $3 and another $3. You made zero. Let me show you the math that's going to make you sick to your stomach. $100,000 of Ethereum just sitting in your wallet produces $0 per day, $0 per month, and $0 per year. Now, maybe if you're staking that Ethereum, maybe you get, a whopping 3%. So you make $8 per day. Congratulations. However, that's not the case for most people. Or $100,000 of ETH earning 30% per year is producing $82 per day. It's producing $2,500 per month, and it's producing $30,000 per year. So with that being said, if you have $100,000 in Ethereum, you are literally leaving $30,000 on the table every single year. Now, you might have a $50,000 portfolio. Guess what? You're leaving 15 on the table. You might have a $1 million portfolio. You're leaving 300 grand on the table. Now, the thing is, most people are just holding Ethereum in their wallet, right? They buy, they hold. Maybe they dollar cost average, right? They're waiting, they're hoping, and they're praying that the price goes up. And you can be the person that capitalizes on those people and ultimately generates income from their ignorance. But before we discuss that, I just want to say, here's what kills me. Your 401k makes 7% per year, and you think that's normal. Your savings account makes you 0.01%, and you accept it. But your ETH, the most programmable money ever created, you let it sit there like a rock, like Patrick the Star. You know what's even worse? While your ETH sits there and does nothing, you're actually losing money. Because every day that passes without earning yield is a day that you can never get back, a day of income that will never be produced. And then on top of that, cryptocurrency inflates daily. There's new tokens coming out, therefore diluting the value of your already existing tokens. Additionally, there are new tokens being minted, meaning more ETH are being put in circulation. Think about it. Your buddy's rental property makes him money every single month. Your neighbor's dividend stocks pay him quarterly. Even your mom's bonds pay interest. But your crypto, the future of finance, the thing that you probably rave about like myself, it's the only asset in your portfolio that produces nothing. And the crazy part is, ETH was literally designed to produce income. It's like owning an apartment building but refusing to rent out the apartments and living in the upper unit. It's like having a money printer in your basement but quite literally never turning it on. Okay, so let me show you 3 different ways people are making their ETH work for them, from beginner to advanced. This first one is going to be basic staking. Now, this is the training wheels. This is like the kiddie pool. You stake your ETH and you get a whopping, in this case, 3.6% APY. Now, that's $10 per day, that's $300 per month, and that's $3,600 per year. That's actually not that bad, but at the same exact time, it's little and it's small, basically. You could do a lot better. And to be frank, while this is better than nothing, right? This is barely beating inflation, and this is essentially what your grandma would do with her ETH. Now, the next thing that you can do is something called liquidity providing, and this is where it actually gets interesting. Now we're talking. You pair your ETH with USDC, which is a stable coin, in what it's called a liquidity pool. And ultimately, this is going to generate you 60% per year. Now that right there is $164 per day, $5,000 per month, and $60,000 per year. Now, before you jump ship and just dive straight into liquidity pools, I want to make you aware of the risk. The reason why these returns are so high is because you are facilitating trading, meaning that when the price goes up, ultimately your ETH is being sold into USDC. Now, the reason why it works that way is because people are buying your ETH. That's why the price is going up. And when they buy your ETH, they are giving you USDC. On top of that, you have to put both ETH and USDC up. So with 100 grand in this instance, you might be putting up 44% of your money in ETH and 56% of your money in USDC. And that's exactly why you do not want to put all of your ETH here. It is too risky because you're going to sell your ETH as it goes up, but you're selling prematurely. And on top of that, you're also minimizing your market allocation to ETH as a whole. And that right there is where the portfolio approach comes into play. Smart money doesn't go all in on one strategy. They blend, they diversify. So what if you could have a mixture of all these? Well, once you stake your ETH, you get something called wrapped EtherFi ETH in this instance. And it essentially just tracks ETH's price, and it also has the staking yield compounded in its price alone. That's why wrapped EtherFi ETH is at $4,700. and ETH is at 43.68. All that yield that's accumulated, rather than just being paid out and say, here's a dividend, it's reinvested automatically, and it's just used to pump the price up a little bit more. So you could take that wrapped EtherFi ETH and put it over on a lending market like Aave. I'm doing this to some degree. I have about 110 grand on this lending market, and we'll get into the borrows in just a second. But if you're lending out all $100,000, you're doing 3.6%. Well, right there, you're generating, your $3,600 per year. And then you go and you borrow some stablecoins. In this case, we'll say $50,000 of stablecoins. That is, of course, if you have a high market outlook and you're expecting ETH to continue to go up. On these stablecoins, you are going to pay roughly 6% to borrow. So let's keep that in mind. We're earning negative 6% on these stablecoins because we're having to pay to borrow them, right? Which nets out. We still come into the positive of $600 right here on this market. And now we have $50,000 of a crypto stablecoin. What could we possibly do with that? We can take that and we can convert it to something like ETH to USDC. And what is that doing? That's giving us leverage market exposure. So we have about $125,000 of exposure to Ethereum at the start. All this Ethereum, we have full market exposure to. If the market goes up, we capture all the gains, right? With this $50,000, yes, our gains are somewhat capped because people are buying that Ethereum for us. That's why it's going up, right? But at the same time, all we have to do is repay $50,000. And if the market's going up, that's now $55,000, $60,000. So we get to keep the spread and we get to keep the income generated from it. And ultimately, that nets us $30,600 per year, which is 30% APR on your ETH. Now, this is something I'm personally doing in my portfolio. That's why I have 110 lent out assets collateralized, and I have $35,000 in borrowed assets. Now, while this might sound super complex, it's actually stupid simple, basically, right? This is something that we call a flywheel approach because we could take that income and we could do a couple different things with it. We can compound it in the way that actually suits us. If we want to reduce debt, we can repay that borrow. So over time, that borrow is going down, whereas our Ethereum to USDC is going up in value. B, we can go and put that money back into Ethereum to USDC to produce more income. C, we can go and put all of that money into Ethereum and increase our collateral, which is what I would be doing in my portfolio. This is how we use lending and borrowing platforms to amplify our returns even more and have somewhat of leverage on the overall market. Now, I have a complete video breakdown on how this works pinned on my channel. It's also going to be at the very top of the description. Ultimately, this is going to break down the exact different types of flywheels you can implement into your portfolio. It's going to help you understand which strategies are the best to deploy your capital into and help you put everything together to truly create a DeFi flywheel and build your portfolio, not just specific positions. And that's because if you don't understand these things, you are going to get wrecked. Let's take the instance of $100,000. Even if we were to structure our position where we have majority of our money in ETH at the start, like in this case, it wants us to provide 75% ETH and 25% USDC. When the market does go up, so when Ethereum goes to a price of, say, $5,000, you will see that we have $105,000 roughly, a little bit less actually. However, if we were to just stick all of that money into holding in the market, we would have $110,000. Even more if we were to just stick it all into holding our Ethereum. So my point is, if you don't know what you're doing, you're going to lose your shirt. You're going to get wrecked here. Ethereum's going to hit all-time highs and you're going to look back and realize, why did I do that? Because you ran the wrong strategies at the wrong time and you're going to be disappointed in yourself. You need to strategically allocate your capital in a way that actually makes sense, in a way that fits your actual portfolio goals. For a lot of us, that's keeping our full market exposure while simultaneously generating enough income to create a compounding machine in our portfolio. The problem is most people don't know how to calculate this. They don't know which pools are safe. They don't know when to enter or when to exit. They don't know how to balance their portfolio. So again, you can capitalize on that because they are going to be creating trading activity when they do this. So you being the person that does this the right way, that actually fits your portfolio goals, accumulates more assets, generates more Ethereum tokens, as opposed to just focusing on the dollar price like most people, you're going to capitalize on the dummies that are ultimately trying to get rich quick, creating a ton of trading volume and putting money right back into our pockets, the long-term investors that want to grow steady but surely. So with that being said, I showed you two different yield strategies and also how you can put them together. The real magic happens and the real money is made when you start with these strategies, you borrow against your positions safely, you deploy that capital into more yield, and you create a self-reinforcing cycle. But of course, beware of liquidations. Because of course, when you are using lending and borrowing platforms, you could get liquidated. And that's why it's important to execute these at the right time and execute at the right loan to value, because you can't just go and do this with any asset. And you definitely can't do this at these ratios with any asset. This is what we call the flywheel approach. And our clients are generating 40 to 60% per year on their portfolios with this flywheel approach. Using Ethereum is just one piece of the puzzle, basically. Here's the thing. You can't just randomly combine strategies. There's a specific order, specific protocols, specific risk management. If you get it wrong, you will lose everything. Get it right, and you're making more than hedge funds. So look, I just showed you how to turn your dead ETH into $30,000 per year. But again, that's just scratching the surface of what can be accomplished with DeFi. I have a complete 30-minute training that shows you the exact portfolio allocation for maximum safety and returns, how to calculate and minimize impermanent loss, and the flywheel system that can double these returns instantaneously. Again, it's completely free. It's linked right below this video. I'm also going to put it somewhere on screen right now. So make sure to drop a like, subscribe, notifications turned on, and I'll see you guys in that video. Peace.